our government was actually good, and that when we vote, that our votes actually mattered. But it turns out, from what I can tell, is our votes have never mattered. There have been people back there who have decided who we are going to elect, who is going to run, and has given us the virtual idea that we actually are making a difference. Have you come to any of that come to you during this wild election season?
Yes, as a matter of fact, my most recent blog post is on the elections, and it's called The 2016 Presidential Race, Do Our Votes Matter? And I've been doing shows with a co-guest named Rachel McIntosh, who was a alternate delegate for Ron Paul at the 2012 convention. And she's written a book called The Big Show, which talks about all the dirty tricks that took place at that convention. For example, Ron Paul had won enough primaries and caucuses to earn a nomination. He'd won 5. And so at the last second, the Republican National Convention changed the rules to make it 8 instead, so that he was shut out. But it was all kinds of other things, like piping in faked applause for Mitt Romney. There were so many dirty tricks. But when I read Rachel's book, it just rung bells for me, because, I've written historically, and I want to read something from my book, The Shadows of Power, which I wrote in 1988. And this is talking about the 1952 Republican convention, where Eisenhower got nominated. I'm quoting myself here, but here's what I wrote 28 years ago. Quote, "At the Republican nominating convention, dirty tricks abounded. The rules for selecting delegates were changed. Taft delegations from Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas were thrown out and replaced by Eisenhower supporters," unquote. Oh, man, that's just what Rachel was talking about happened 60 years later. And you can go back to the 1940 convention. You remember, ever heard of a guy named Wendell Willkie?
No.
Okay. Well, Wendell Willkie was actually the Republican nominee for president in 1940. Of course, he lost to Franklin D. Roosevelt. But this guy came from nowhere. He'd been like Eisenhower. He had no affiliation with the Republican Party before the convention year. In fact, he'd been a registered Democrat. And the guy came out of nowhere. There was a deadlock convention, which is something we might be seeing the Republicans have this year. And when you have a deadlock, if neither side gives in, then what you have to do is usually there's a compromise. They come up with a third party. Well, they came up with Wendell Willkie, who had not entered a single primary or caucus. And I just want to quote what Congressman Usher Burdick of North Dakota said about that. He said, quote, "We Republicans in the West want to know if Wall Street and the international bankers control our party and select our candidate. I believe I'm serving the best interests of the Republican Party by protesting and exposing the machinations and attempts of J.P. Morgan and the New York bankers in forcing Wendell Willkie on the Republican Party," unquote. That's from the Congressional Record. See how far back this goes? Mm-hmm. Taft had been the favorite in 52. He lost it to Eisenhower through dirty tricks. Here's what he said. He said, quote, "Every Republican candidate for president since 1936 has been nominated by the Chase National Bank," unquote. And it's the Democrats, too. I mean, Jimmy Carter, just 7 months before the Democratic Convention of 76, less than 4% of registered Democrats polled said they wanted him for president, but he met with David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski, and those guys, had formed the Trilateral Commission, of which he was a member, and later on Carter made Zbigniew Brzezinski as national security advisor. All of a sudden, Carter's pictures on Time magazine's cover 3 times, and Times cover artists were told to make him look like John F. Kennedy, which they did. And he was on Newsweek's cover twice, and the Wall Street Journal said he was the best candidate. That's your businessman's appeal. The New York Times ran a series of pieces on him, and the network started running him every night, and all of a sudden he's skyrocketed to the top. And if you want to go way back, read a book called America's 60 Families by Ferdinand Lundberg. He talks about how Woodrow Wilson was selected at the 1912 convention and Herbert Hoover at the 28 convention by the powers that be, not the people. So Daniel, this has been going on for well over a century in America. It's an illusion that the people really have a choice.
Well,
The dirty tricks that my friend Rachel experienced at the 2012 Tampa GOP convention, that stuff has been going on for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, I know some of the dirty